professionals. I am Dr. Ellison, and today we are going to talk about your skills and why it is today's currency. This topic is so crucial, especially as we look at the ever-evolving, ever-changing, and dynamic landscape of today's workers, economics, and all of the things that are going on in today's workforce. Our quote for today comes from Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 29, and it reads, "Observe people who are good at their work. Skilled workers are always in demand and admired. They don't take a back seat to anyone." And this is the Message version. And what I really like about this particular scripture is that even in the Bible, it tells us that we are to be good at our work. So God demands that his people work. And so if you take a look back to the Garden of Eden, one of the first things he did was he put Adam to work. He gave him a garden and he told him to tend to it. And all throughout history, all throughout scripture, God skilled people to be good at whatever work it was that they did. And it says, observe people who are good at their work, meaning not only does God observe what we do in our work, but that we are also being observed as we do our work. And people that are highly skilled are always in demand, and they don't take a back seat to anybody. And I really like that scripture, especially as we talk about our skills and how it is currency for today. One thing I'd like to do before we get started, I always like to start off with a baseline set of definitions. Our first definition is currency, as we talk about our skills and how it is currency in today's workforce. So our first definition is currency. And of course, when we think about currency, at least I do, I think about money, right? And that's one of the first definitions of currency. It's a system of money in general use in a particular country. So in the United States, for example, the dollar would be our system of currency, right? It's also the fact or quality of being generally accepted or in use. For example, the skill that you have. It may be, you may be a skilled car repair person, right? That skill would be generally accepted or in use if you are highly skilled at doing it. And then what do you trade that for? How is that used as a currency? You trade that skill for the dollar, right? Our next definition is going to be skill. So our skill as a currency. And the skill is the ability to do something well, a particular activity, right? And I really like this definition. And I like to go also to the thesaurus because it lets us know that our skill is our expertise. It's our skillfulness. It's our competency. It's our efficiency, our aptitude, right? It could be our artistry, our art, our finesse, right? And I really like the definitions of currency and skill. So just using those two definitions as a baseline. And what really wanted to drive me to talk about this today were two things, or a few things actually. So as we take a look at the news, a lot of you may not be sports fans. I'm a huge sports fan. And just recently we had the 2025 NFL draft. And as they picked all of the draft picks, some people got selected and some didn't. Shador Sanders was among those highly discussed draft picks. And one thing they did is they discussed his skill set, right? Some people thought he's highly skilled. Some thought he's just all hype, all talk, not really skilled. But as we think about that in a workplace setting and how people may or may not talk about us. Are we just walking around and not really having those skills, or do we really have the ability to back it up? As we talked about that first definition of skill, is it an observed skill? Do we have the finesse? Do we have the expertise? Is it our artistry? Is it our craft? And so, time is only going to tell with, Mr. Sanders as he goes on to play professional football, whether or not he's actually going to be able to be, highly skilled in the professional setting. And then also, as we take a look at the economy, despite, what we see going on with the price of gas, the price of eggs, we look at tariffs and how it has caused uncertainty in the market. I just read today that despite the tariffs, despite some of the empty shelves that we may see, what they're saying is that the job market is strong. So, there's so much uncertainty, but one thing that we're going to have to be able to do, professionals, is we're going to have to be able to have the ability to pivot, to be able to make sure that we set ourselves up in a way that our skill set is a currency wherever we work, or if we have to pivot and go somewhere else, how do we communicate to ourselves and to others that we have skills that are transferable, right? And what I have before you is from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And I always like to let you know what websites I'm going to. If you take a look at some of our other platforms, we recorded a video about necessary resources. And among the necessary resources, one of the things that I like to keep is a running list of websites that I like to go to that kind of help me navigate some things. So this is another one of those resources. The one that I gave you in that video was the U.S. Department of Labor. This one is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And what do they do at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce? So it's just a body of members from the business community, and they get together and they determine the way forward for what they're going to be looking for in the business industry. And this one specifically, as we're talking about skills as currency. And so what are our business leaders looking for? What types of skills are they looking for? And our business leaders, they're thinking differently about learning and about skills and about employment. And if you're not following the news, I would encourage you to take a look at what is happening with some of our learning institutions. So consider Harvard and some of the legal issues that they're having right now. And it's causing people to consider how we are even thinking about college degrees and skill sets and going to universities for learning, and how employers are looking at hiring people, right? Do we necessarily have to hire people that have 4-year college degrees or master's degrees? And what employers are looking for education wise is starting to adapt and adjust and change over time. And so what I would encourage you, as we talked, a few weeks ago about necessary resources, another thing I would encourage you to do is to be looking forward. What trends are taking place in the business realm? What are employers looking for? And even if you feel like you're secure in your current role or your current job, you may be an entrepreneur, it's always important to be looking at the landscape, because you never know what may happen. Things are changing, and they're changing rapidly. So today, the tariffs may not be affecting how we hire. The job market may be stable today. I may get on the internet tomorrow and look up some stuff, and it may be completely different. It may be a totally different story. So just staying abreast of what is going on in your industry, what is going on, and believe it or not, what is happening globally, what is happening nationally, those things impact the business market as a whole. And those things matriculate down to the individual person. And that is going to determine what skills are employers looking for, right? So, what are some ways that we can record our skills? So, some ways that I believe are necessary for recording our skills are keeping a running resume. So one thing that I do is I keep a running curriculum vitae, and I know that that is useful for a specific purpose. There's a specific design in place for a curriculum vitae or for a resume, but I keep a running one. So every time I acquire a new skill or I level up in my skill, I record those things. If I volunteer hours in my community doing something, I make sure to keep that on my running resume. So that is one way that you can record your skills. If you get an award or you get recognition, for example, I would record that. So that way you can keep a running tally of your skills. And it keeps you updated, it keeps you current. Another way is to build a portfolio. I showed you in the video, the training we did on necessary resources, I presented before you a binder of necessary resources. Another thing that you could add to that is your portfolio. So, for example, if you are an artist or you do graphic design or, maybe you have worked on cars. I knew someone that used to wrap cars. So just keeping images of some of the work that you do. If you are a hairstylist, I can think of a number of different industries. Keep an accounting of what type of work you do. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a printout or a hard copy. You may capture that online, but you never know when someone may ask you or an opportunity may present itself, and that could happen to you physically at your job. So I would say to build a portfolio. And not only is it just good to have in case someone asks you for it, or, it's good for you to have to keep yourself mindful of where do I have a blind spot? What skill do I have that could probably use some updating? Is there some updated training that I may need to take? Another way to record your skills is using numbers and statistics. I cannot overemphasize this one enough. So on top of keeping a running resume or a curriculum vitae, one thing I used to encourage my employees to do was to print out a blank copy of a performance appraisal and write things in there as they did it. Because one way of keeping receipts, as I talked about the last time I did a teaching, is what are those things that we do that are qualifiable and quantifiable. So if you want to demonstrate that you are being productive or that you have made improvements or that you do have a particular type of skill that is high quality. How do you demonstrate that? How can you record that? And one way to do that is by having numbers and by having statistics. So, for example, if you are someone that is certified in fitness, for example, you can say that I've trained X amount of people to do diet and nutrition this quarter, and I went from this number to this number, and I got these type of results. Or, if you are in a human resource professional, you can use what you do, try to capture that, because sometimes we go to our jobs, we get hired, we get comfortable, and then we're just going about our day to day and not really mindful of the impact that we're actually having in our workplace. And we may find ourselves surprised at how much of an impact we have. And you really don't realize it until you sit down and start looking at the numbers. You start looking at the math. You start looking at the statistics. You start looking at how you helped your company, for example, improve its performance by 10%, by 3%, by 5%, by 15%. And so when I would sit down sometimes with my employees and we would sit down to do their performance appraisals, I would find myself reminding them of things that they had done. Remember when you did X, and it's the impact it had on this. So that would be another way to record your skills. And while I don't have it up here, Dr. Burks and I have talked about this in the past, and that is keeping some sort of calendar or planner. Now, I love technology. So I like the smartwatches, the smartphones. I like all of that stuff. But one thing that I do is I keep a physical planner, calendar that I can write on. Because when it comes time for my performance appraisal or it comes time for me to go back and look, I like to have, matter of fact, I'm not even going to play y'all like that. I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to show it to you. So this is the planner that I use, and I'll just show you briefly. But I go through, and not only do I keep account of what I am doing on a day-to-day basis by the week, but as you know, the month goes on, because sometimes I'll go back and I'll say, well, what did I do in December? And I can go back and say, oh, I failed to record that I volunteered 30 hours of community service doing XYZ. And those are things that we may be volunteering in our personal time, but that can possibly translate into something that could equate to a higher pay for you in your job that you get paid to do, right? So there's some things you may volunteer in your church that may have a skill that transfers into your workplace that you just may not be mindful to think about those things. So I would say another way to record your skills and those statistics and those numbers and keep an account of what you do is to actually have a physical planner. So when do I have my meetings? How did I contribute? What were my due outs? What did I actually turn in? Another thing I would say to do, another way to record is to, as you are jotting these things down in your running resume or your blank copy of your performance appraisal, is to use action words. So, taught X amount of classes, completed X amount of vehicle repairs, for example, mentored X amount of human resource professionals. So using action words, verbs that actually state what you did, right? Because those are help you to better translate those skills that you recorded. Another way to record your skills is to share your work. So we did talk about building a portfolio, but sharing your work, maybe having an online presence would be a way to record your skills. Some people do blogging or, have YouTube videos or, they may have some other technical way that they are recording their skills and what they do. Someone may catch you and say, well, what do you do? And you can just pull up your Instagram page, for example, and you can just start running through, like, look at all the hairstyles I've done, or look at all the nails I've done, or look at all the cars I've painted or houses I've built. And that is one way that you can record your skills. And I would say to also look and highlight the ones that are transferable. What are the skills that every employer is looking for. So as you look at the skills that you have, there are a certain set of skills that every employer is looking for. For example, adaptability, problem solving skills. Like there are certain skills dependability, reliability. Like there's certain types of skills that are transferable that almost every employer is looking for. So I would say that as you're keeping a running tab of all the skills that you have, highlight the ones that are transferable. And I would always look to be doing things that you can transfer from one job or one career to another. Because I will tell you, the landscape, the way in which we work it is changing. And so while, college degrees are good to have, work experience is good to have, there are some people that are just freelance. There are some people that have taught themselves how to do certain skills. For example, I know someone who taught themselves how to speak two other languages just on their own, and that is a skill in the state that I live in. Being able to go somewhere and to interpret in other languages, my goodness, and there's tests that you can take to, for an employer to determine that I'm fully capable to trans, talk in these other languages, right? Now, what makes your skills actual currency? So, one thing I will tell you is that skills is becoming the future. So, while it is good to have the education, the certification, those to me, that's foundational stuff. Like that's groundwork. Now, how do we take what we learned in school? How do we take what we got in a certification program and actually put that to work? And that is what employers are looking for. That is what makes your skills valuable. That is what makes your skills currency, right? So, having skills as currency, it enhances your confidence. How does it do that? Doing those things to record your skills and knowing what your skill set is, it allows you to talk about your way in a way that presents confidence about what you do. You don't have to roll your eyes and try to think about, oh, well, what is it that I do? Oh, well, I'm in the automotive industry. You can actually sit here and run down what skills you do, how they're transferable. So that actually enhances your confidence. Your confidence is something that employers are looking for, and that's money in a bank. That makes your skill currency. Also, networking, being able to show across multiple places that you have these skills allows you to network with other people that may have different skills that you can trade, kind of like the old barter and trade system. Well, I don't have that skill. You have that skill. Can you help me with this? And I'll help you with that. And I know that's something that business leaders do all the time. We may consult for a company and they may provide IT services. And so networking is one way that you can use your skills as currency. It helps you to increase productivity. So when you know what you are good at, you know how your skill set is currency and how you add value, you know where to put that skill set to use, and it just makes you that much more productive because you're already doing something that you know that you're highly skilled at. And then also knowing what your skill set is and how it is currency and how it is valued, it increases your job opportunities. So people may come across you on Instagram or YouTube or LinkedIn, or they may come across you, at work as you have showcased and demonstrated your skill, and it may open up other opportunities for you. Also, personal growth. Knowing your skills, highlighting and showcasing them allows you to develop yourself, to see what skills do I need? What skills do I lack? Where do I have a blind spot? It allows you to kind of take some time to think through. And for you, that is personal growth, personal development. It allows you to look at yourself, look at your skills, and figure out what you need to do, how you can leverage those. And it just allows you to continue that process of lifelong learning. And using skills as a currency is not just for the individual, it can be for the team, it can be for the organization, it can be for employers. So, employee retention. So, knowing what skills you're looking for, knowing how to take highly skilled employees, knowing how to look at your employees and what skills they have and put them to best use, it makes for more satisfied employees and probably potentially can keep those people at their job longer. So, employee retention is another benefit of using skill currency. And then another one, and of course, this list is not exhaustive by any means, but access to diverse talent. And this is another one for our leaders and our employers or those who are trying to acquire talent. It allows you access to a more diverse talent pool. Right? So, as we talk about diversity, most recently, there's been a negative connotation put on diversity. But in my estimation, in my opinion, diversity only can serve to enhance an organization, right? It can only serve to enhance you as an individual when you have a diversity of skills, right? And so, access to diverse talent is what every organization, in my estimation, in my assessment, in my experience, should be looking for, right? And so this is a skills first future. When we start talking about the year 2030 and beyond, that's pretty much where things are headed because we are just in a day and age where, people are not going to be just going to these 4-year institutions and taking on these big student loans. And like Dr. Burks and I have shared with you before, there are, men and women that are graduating from college and they have the degree, but they don't have the skill set. They don't have the experience. But our skills our currency and being able to record those skills and being able to communicate them. And ultimately that's what this is about. Being able to communicate our skills. Our skills is currency. It's that money in a bank, right? And I just hope that you continue to learn, continue to grow. You have value. God has told us that He values us. He created us for His work. And it is incumbent upon us to be always lifelong learners, always studying, always growing, always self assessing and figuring out how we can add value. Because after all, we are here not to just get up and punch a clock and work 9 to 5. We are here to add value to others, right? After all, what good is a skill? If we're building houses, this to add value to somebody's life. If we're painting cars, it's to add value. If we're doing hair, it's to make somebody feel beautiful and feel good about themselves. It's adding value. If we do taxes, it's to save somebody time and so they don't owe the government money. It's adding value. Our skills is adding value. Our work has purpose. Our work has meaning. And how do we communicate what we do and how we add value? Our skills are like bricks. And either we're building or we're tearing down. And if we have skills, which I know all of you professionals do, that means every skill is a brick and we're bringing our bricks to build, right? We should be building. But I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave them in the comments. And as always, stay encouraged, encourage others, and always be professional.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.